The advertising model is a way of providing free or subsidized access to content by providing opportunities for companies to pay for advertising alongside that content. Now, advertising is one of the most established models around, and even though media industries have been fragmenting in recent years, advertising remains a $600 billion market every year. Now, for an advertising model to succeed, there are some important dependencies to be aware of, most notably audience. So an advertising model will generally fail or succeed depending on whether there is a large general audience or a valuable niche audience available. So a large audience opens up advertising opportunities amongst a wide range of advertisers, and that can be potentially a very significant source of revenue. But on the other hand, specialized niche audiences who have a propensity to buy the products that the advertisers want to sell can also command high advertising rates. So when you're thinking about your business model, think about the end-to-end context that you're trying to create for users. And at each point, ask yourself, where are the advertising opportunities that could show up here? It's also worth identifying potential advertising partners and sharing that end-to-end journey with them, because they'll often have imaginative ways of integrating their message into user experiences that you may not come up with yourself. Just some watch-outs though. Be careful to ensure that the advertising doesn't impact the overall image of your product or service or even your own brand. For reasons of independence, sometimes you can feel as if a product or a service is somewhat biased or led by the advertising or the experience of using the service. So again, you don't want to have users being continually interrupted or have their access continually interrupted because of advertising popping up in a frustrating way. Now, in a freemium context, users generally accept that a level of advertising is inevitable, but you need to keep track of what the user believes the acceptable boundaries of advertising need to be, and don't be tempted to chase the revenue at the expense of the user's experience. That said, sometimes we can look, I think particularly in charity sector and in not-for-profit sector, there can be a slightly bitter taste of advertising in the mouth, and we kind of avoid it altogether, and that's not really for us. I would avoid that trap because it is a well-established and successful model, and it's not going to disappear in a hurry. And it is possible actually for advertisers more and more to come up with media that actually adds value. For example, sponsored information films or education films are becoming much more sophisticated and feel less like advertising. So when they're done well, they can actually increase the overall benefit of the service that you're providing. So set some standards that you want the advertising to live up to, and try as much as possible to cause that advertising to actually bring user value. So 2 key questions to ask, just to sum up on the advertising model if you're considering working in this way. The first is, do you have a well-defined value proposition for a well-segmented audience that advertisers will find commercially attractive? It's all about zoning in on an end user that is willing or is interested in that company's products or services. The more laser focused you can be, the more attractive you will be to potential advertising partners. Now, if you do have that, based on industry standard advertising rates, what revenue could your audience potentially attract? So you can start to do some basic maths around your model on, based on industry rates, what would need to be true in order for us to deliver a model that generates a certain amount of revenue based on a certain amount of advertising. So it's well worth considering as a potential business model, even if it's just part of a wider business model strategy and contributes a percentage to the overall funding that's required to deliver a service.